to Royce. Daniel Malen! Wonderful!
Fantastic from Royce. Jude Bellingham, that's excellent. Jude Bellingham, this is absolutely brilliant. Jude Bellingham! Absolutely magnificent.
Reina, brilliant from the American. Just like that.
Best of clearances. Oh, what a volley. Matt Hummels.
Grant in for Haaland! Like he's never been away. The man in front of goal who is simply deadly.
All right, the Bundesliga is back, and we're back with another episode of the BVB podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Jake. Carver is with me as always. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, thank you. And we have a very, very special guest today on the show. We have Stefan Buczko. He is a well-respected journalist among BVB fans across the globe. He's the co-author of the book There Is Only One Borussia, which can be found on his Twitter at Stefan Buczko. He is also, of course, the creator of the famous YellowWallPod, and now has a new series on his YouTube where he gives daily updates on the insights of the ins and outs of the club. Stefan, how are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you so much for that tee-up. However, I'm not the creator of the YellowWallPod.
Oh, okay. Oh, got that.
That's Matthias Zug. I joined around episode 4 or so, but I'm the host of the YellowWallPod by now, since Matthias is lazy and doesn't want to do it. So this is sticking with me. So hey, Jake.
Hey.
You also have to edit this, or do you just host and then Carver does the rest?
Carver, I mean, if you've listened to, our podcast for a while, then you know Carver. I just sit here, I kind of record it, and Carver, I just let Carver rip. Like, everyone just is here for Carver, so.
It's a team effort. Stefan, we're really happy to have you on. I've been a fan of yours for a long time. Well, I guess not your show now, but I used to work night shifts a few years back, and that's whenever I first listened to your guys' show. And by like the third episode, I was singing along, just episode after episode, knocking them out on my night shifts. And yeah, I've been a fan since. So thank you so much for giving us the time to be on the show.
Yeah, well, thank you for listening, to be honest. This is sort of my mission since the YellowWallPod started, is to bring the Holy Gospel out and spread it to the world. Obviously I was also working for ESPN at some point, and I sort of started to have a more professional endeavor. But really it was always, for whatever reason, my mission to, put it into English language and inform other people, because obviously in Germany there are so many news outlets where you can get the news about Borussia Dortmund. But if you're not from Germany and say the United States, especially like 10 years ago, there was very few English content out there. Borussia Dortmund had not even had a English Twitter account, stuff like that. So it was a bit of a wilderness. So that's where I thought, okay, this might be my niche. And, I love connecting with fans from all around the world. And now I'm, I don't know if this is my official press tour, but now I've started at the beginning of July, the BVB update. It's a YouTube channel within the Yellow Wall YouTube channel. And basically, I just give a daily roundup of news. So nowadays, I think it's much easier for Dortmund fans to get those news. But nevertheless, I still thought, why not start this? And obviously, it's a lot of work. So everyone listening, please go to the Yellow Wall on YouTube and subscribe, so I can be happy.
No, and we'll definitely link that. But I mean, as you said, and why we appreciate you and all the work you've done too, because like as Dortmund supporters in America, it has always been hard to stay up to date precisely. Even as we're doing this show, it's kind of like I'll jump on Twitter and it's like, well, I hope I find some news today. Sometimes you don't know what's going to be there or not. So yeah, it's good having that, especially now that you're doing that YouTube thing. That's a daily thing. It's a good it's a good landing page. Like, where to go to have like a source for Dortmund news. Yeah,
and they're short videos too. You can so the listeners, you can just kind of pop those videos in your mouth as you go, and they're not time consuming or anything like that.
And I would recommend listening it on 1.5 speed, to be honest, because I'm not that fast of a talker. So if I edit it on 2 times the speed, because that's all I can on the software before I become incoherent. But that's sort of my recommendation. 1.5 speed is probably the best on YouTube. Thankfully, modern technology allows you that.
And just watch the ads. Let him watch the ads all the way through.
Roll in the dough
Not
that
yet,
way.
not yet. I think
Roll in the dough
not
that
yet,
way.
not yet. I think YouTube lets you monetize it once you have 1,000 subscribers. So before you watch the ad, just hit the subscribe button. That would help. But enough about me and the press tour. Let's talk about Borussia Dortmund.
Oh yeah, Bundesliga started this week.
Yeah.
Kind of a big week. So but I mean, on top of the game, which we are going to recap our Leverkusen game, we're going to preview our next game against Freiburg. We got a bunch of Twitter questions. Thanks for everyone who reached out asking some questions, which we'll get into. We got to talk about this signing news first, though. We got almost kind of like a bonus signing that I think originally this guy definitely wasn't on our list of a signing for the summer, but we're here now with all the Haller news and what's been going on there. Again, hopefully we'll have him back later in the year, but for now, we just signed Modeste from FC Köln.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually watched your update just yesterday, Stefan, of just some different things you were breaking down from his stats. And, we talked already about just the different aerial threat he's going to be. I mentioned on that site he was in the 82nd percentile for aerials 1. But another stat that I thought was pretty interesting also is he's in the 84th percentile in shots that lead to another shot. So he's going to be another one of those strikers, again, that can get in the box and be physical presence, but open up more opportunities for the people around him. And we have, what looks like countless people now on either wing to go and hopefully bag some goals and take some of that pressure off of him and Moukoko.
Stefan, did you have any, besides your video, but what are your thoughts on Modeste coming in? Do you think it's going to be a benefit? I know we had some Twitter questions specifically about people questioning if he's like the right fit or not, but I mean, it's a guy coming in who's a striker and scores goals. And I think Dortmund put out the video where I watched it today as we're recording on Tuesday, and just the caption I saw was like, "I'm here to score goals." Yeah. I was like, "Yep, cool, come on in."
Yeah, that's all he had to say. Basically, it's like, "Yeah, that's my job, so let's go." Yeah, no. What I really like about Modeste, obviously, is if you juxtapose it with, say, Cavani's stats, is that he played a lot of games last season, unlike Cavani, for example, who I think was sort of the option or plan B that Dortmund had if the Modeste thing fell through. And Kehl said today that he is in top fit shape and that he is sort of ready to go, that he can handle the intensity. And I think the stats are 32 games and 31 starts last season. And of course, in that he scored 20 goals for Cologne, which is impressive because Cologne do not create as many chances as other teams. Obviously, what I'm really looking forward to is how Dortmund will adjust, because obviously, aerial threat is, his main thing, if you will, and who is going to play in the crosses. For example, in the Leverkusen game, we saw Hazard, when he replaced Adeyemi, that he had a lot of half-field crosses into the box and also from the side of the box, sort of from the wing. And there was literally no one there. The ball just went either to Radetzky or just, into the wilderness. But I think going forward, and especially if Adeyemi isn't available against Freiburg, then maybe Hazard can play these balls a little bit more often, and then you have a player, a target man, who then can just head these home. Because if there's one big strength that Modeste has, it is that he can generate a lot of power if he is motioning away from goal. And that has caught a lot of goalkeepers off guard. FC Köln have published a nice compilation of all 20 goals of or Bundesliga goals on YouTube, and I watched this back and forth like 2 or 3 times, and I think 15 goals or so, I didn't count, are all headers. And you can see that he's a natural goal scorer because he does have the instinct. And Sebastian Kehl also said today that he is added, I think, under Baumgart, the natural pressing ability that he has, that he is, become a bit more intelligent when it comes to defending or playing against the ball, because this is certainly not one of his main strengths. And I really do wonder how Dortmund are going to ease him into the side, because obviously there is no preseason now, and he will be sort of thrown into the deep end. And with that, I'm cautiously optimistic. Obviously, we don't know how it's going to work out, but I think from all the options and circumstances, this is by far the best one. And if I may add one last point, I'm also really happy that Dortmund now have formulated a philosophy where they said we want a tall number 9 up front, no Suarez or any other players of that profile. We want our target man, and Edin Terzic has his setup for this, and this is how we're going to play. And so Dortmund are not screwing around with variables, but they have a plan and they follow it. And I think this is the first thing that needs to happen when you propose a club philosophy. So the fact that they're doing it now makes me personally very happy.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. Like you said already, having a plan and actually going through with it, as opposed to what seems like the vast majority of other clubs around Europe who are struggling to make really any sort of signing to plug up, some really gaping holes. But we've made some real attempts at, tackling any different area of the pitch you could look at almost from front to back. And going back also, I know you mentioned throwing to the Wolves. That it's going to be also interesting to see how he performs in the Champions League. I know in a few different interviews, he seems really excited to play in a competition that he's never been in before. And it'll be interesting to see who we can draw into the Champions League for our group stage this year too. I'm hoping he can, not carry us, but bring us to the past the group stage this year too. I know, Jake, you were excited to see hopefully a good Champions League run, which he's going to be a massive help in that aspect. Yeah.
Yeah. And even let's say Haller gets back sooner rather than later. Like that's kind of what we need if we want to be competitive in the Bundesliga and the Champions League specifically. Like I think just watching this first game and seeing how this all played out with Haller and having to bring in Modeste now, it's like maybe we should have brought in two strikers in this situation, because you see other clubs like the real power clubs in the Champions League, like the guys who make runs like Man City, Liverpool, like they have that depth. And I think that's one thing I would really notice this weekend that we don't.
Or non-power clubs in the Champions League like Leverkusen, who also had three strikers in that game.
And it's just like, I think looking at this lineup specifically in a match, thinking like, oh man, we don't have the depth. Like we don't have the depth that we need to be competitive in three different competitions.
Yeah.
So
and it before Modeste too. I mean, pending the Haller situation, we didn't really have the versatility either in our attack. We had a lot of small, pacey, younger wingers, but we didn't have really, the veterans up top and the people who knew to get the job done. And again, bringing that physical presence into our attack. So it's going to bring some dynamism. It's going to bring some versatility, and bag in a whole bunch of goals. Excited.
I don't know if I'm going to ask it now. I don't know if I want to ask it for our preview, but do you think he'll jump right in and start this next game against Freiburg, or maybe sub in, play like 30 minutes, 20 minutes?
Nah, I think it's going to be a sub, but I've been wrong before and I'll be wrong again. Maybe he will start, but I think it's more likely that he will come on in the 70th minute for Moukoko, or maybe someone else. Maybe we'll have a two-headed attack, which can also happen now. Exciting times. I mean, I've asked for backup strikers since Adrien Ramos, I think it was, but Dortmund for the longest time only had one number 9, and that was it. And when the number 9 was injured, you had to go to, I don't know, for example, Tigges or so, which, considering the size of Borussia Dortmund in club football, it is almost inconceivable that they never really have a formidable number 2 striker. And I think with Modeste, I wouldn't have not been too unhappy if it were a 2-year deal instead of a 1-year deal. And they would have said, okay, we're just going to try to keep you alongside Haller for a longer time, even though obviously the Yusufa Moukoko contract extension is a bit of a politicum right now. Yeah. So Dortmund are trying to, signal him every which way that it is safe to extend. We really want and plan with you, but still, it's... It's really annoying. So even if they do not extend with Modeste at the end of the year and Haller's back and Moukoko is around, I still think there should be yet another striker of that profile.
Yeah. We could have used your last episode, because I know Adam was asking, we were both stumped. Adam and I were thinking about who was the backup to Aubameyang 7 or so years ago. And we were sitting there for
listening to this. I'm like, Ramos, there was Ramos. Okay.
I was like, oh my God, of course it's Adrien Ramos, yeah.
I was gonna just seeing the news. I don't know if it was yesterday, today, probably the last few days. This always happens to me. Like I see stuff and I'm not keeping track of winter. Anyways, Timo Werner. Do you think we should have went for him? Was there any interest in him, or that was one I mentioned over the summer?
I'll answer that one for you, Stefan.
I mean, you said that earlier, but
I hate Timo Werner, and I'm so glad he joined Leipzig because I think he's going to make them worse.
Yeah.
He's a terrible striker, and he is only going to eat in the time of Christopher Nkunku, who's their best player.
Yeah.
This transfer makes zero sense on paper. The only way it makes sense is that RB Leipzig are way too rich for their own good, have unlimited resources, and are just throwing money around because they want to establish themselves as the number 2 in Germany, which obviously goes very much on my nerves, if I'm frank, that this, disgrace of a club, if you want to even call it that, is, annoying us in the Bundesliga. But you might be concerned about a lot of Leipzig moves, and maybe Timo Werner makes me eat my own words, but I don't think he's that great. I think he lacks the footballing IQ to become a great striker, and whenever I see him in the shirt of the German national team, I have to roll my eyes because he screws so many things up. It's incredible. So obviously it's no surprise that it didn't work out at Chelsea because they have actually some ambition.
Yeah, I wonder if those last year and a half, 2 years of him in London is going to really just take that much of a toll of his confidence, and he's not going to be able to regain much of any form back in the Bundesliga. It's going to be interesting to see, but yeah, I also saw, I think it was like maybe 20 million that Leipzig spent for him as well, which I don't know. I know he's not the one of the best players, but it seems like, I think compared to what Chelsea paid for him, usually Chelsea are the other way around. They're kind of flipping young players for a lot more money. So that fee just kind of raised some eyebrows at me.
Yeah, what's probably going to even raise more eyebrows, and I haven't seen a number yet, is his annual salary, because that is probably going to be...
Yeah, I didn't see that.
In a sphere where he might be making more than Marco Reus at this point. I don't exactly know if it's maybe 10, 11 million or so, but I'm pretty sure he did not want to take a significant pay cut, and I'm pretty sure if Leipzig are able to pay Chelsea wages, then this is going to be a giant waste of money.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about that either. I wonder what his salary is going to be like.
All right, sorry for getting us on that topic, guys. We'll keep things moving.
There was also a football game I might want to.
There's also the start of the Bundesliga season. So I was going to ask you, first of all, Stefan, I know you're based in Philly. You live in Philly?
Yeah.
What's your game watching scenario? Because Carver went to our local place here in St. Louis called the Amsterdam Tavern with our local Brucian fan club. And I know I texted Carver and asked him something about the game, and he's like, I need to rewatch it because I had quite a few drinks. So what's your game day scenario over in Philly?
I wake up and I schlep myself down the stairs onto the couch and I turn on the TV, and that's about it.
I honestly don't want to make myself sound like I drink too much, but I genuinely do the exact same thing 99% of times. And even whenever I do go to that to the bar at the fan club, I don't drink much. But I had a friend with me that doesn't watch soccer much at all, so I was making sure he was having a good time, and we just kept throwing drinks back and forth. And I was like, man, I need to watch this again.
I mean, it's the start of the season. It's like Christmas. You got to go all out.
Yeah. Going into the lineups for this one, I feel like every source that I saw, anywhere from just our apps, ESPN, anywhere you could look, there was different formations that the sources had up. But from what I was looking at, it looked like more like a 4-2-3-1, maybe at times with Dahoud dropping back in between the center halves, as a 4-3-3. Were you surprised at all to see Hummels starting here, Stefan, or?
No, it was the lineup I predicted in the BVB update.
Yeah.
Hey, Carver, didn't you watch it? Come on, man.
For once, a correct prediction. No, I was not surprised because I think it worked out so well against 1860 Munich that there was very little reason to change it around. And I think if you put out a back five, then the chances of getting counterattacked to shreds is actually significantly higher, because as Dortmund have shown in the friendlies before, is that the back three lacks the rhythm and the chemistry for it to really work, because the offside trap just will collapse all the time. And with that, I think Dortmund would be too vulnerable. So I think the lineup that Terzic put out there was the right one. But then again, he also didn't have too many other options. Özcan still injured, Aller obviously out, and Adeyemi, Schlotterbeck, the only two new signings available to you. So that was always going to be the lineup, I felt. And I don't know about you guys. I'm really interested to see what you say, but I thought that Dortmund, except for maybe the first 5 minutes, because at the kickoff, Leverkusen just had the ball and we're like, we're just going to lump it up to you guys and see what you do with it. And we're going to press you as high as as we possibly can. But, once Dortmund settled into the game after 2-3 minutes, I thought they were really superb, given that it was the first match day and they had a very patchy preseason.
Exactly. I felt the exact same. I mean, I imagine they were probably trying that just because they were like, hey, with Akanji and Zagadou, we were able to get however many in the first 15 minutes. We could just try that again. But, with having the new signing of Schlotterbeck and as well as a veteran like Hummels who can help organize that defense, it looked like we were able to grow ourselves into the game pretty quick and use the energy of the stadium and also having Terzic on the sidelines. I think that is a massive help of keeping the energy up, keeping the motivation up, and weathering that storm at least a little bit better than what we've seen in the recent past, to go in and score in, what was it, the 10th minute, I think it was. So, and then I think the play not started, but towards the end, you saw Moukoko in the box before he crossed that over. And I know one of the bigger criticisms of Moukoko has been, not only his age, but it's just his size as well. And I'm not saying that he's going to be, that physical presence that we need or anything like that, but I still think in the last year or so, he's getting a little stronger and he's becoming a little smarter in those situations. He was able to hold off that center back and get that cross in, which is not easy to do. I think the other center back was 6'3", if I'm not mistaken. So it was a good way to hold up the ball and get the ball over to Adeyemi, who I thought was going to be able to place that in the net pretty easily, but everyone just sitting there waiting like, and then Royce finally tapped it in.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty poor finish by Adeyemi, if you really think about it, because the fact that he even hit Radetzky there was just very poor placement. I think with the time and space he should probably just shoot a little higher.
Yeah, and put it on his stronger foot too. I think he took that with his right. So
no, I think taking it first time was the right idea. You just need to be a bit more precise. But maybe I'm a little bit overcritical here. But I think overall, what we can say about this goal is, first of all, Bellingham's tenacity to poke it away from Leverkusen, and then this beautiful pass by Moukoko. I think he got a lot of critics for this game, but that assist, basically, if Adeyemi scores directly, is pretty darn good. And I think the overall positioning in the box by Dortmund players and how they spread out is really good, because Adeyemi was really in the right place at the right time, and this is exactly what Terzic wants, and makes me very happy, because I think that way Dortmund can score a lot of goals.
Yeah, it was beautifully weighted by Moukoko, and I'm not trying to shit on Rosa too much, but it feels like already that the players just have like actual ideas when we get into their final third. Unlike last year, I feel like we were, having a pretty decent job at building up half the time, but then we kind of get in that final third and then just looking at each other like, I have no idea really what to do. But we have so many different options on the wings and players making runs, and the pace and the power and the accuracy of our attackers is a dangerous threat. Even without that central striker that we've been lacking before, Modeste.
Yeah, overall, it was a great team goal. Like you said, Jude, fighting through to win the ball back. And then was it to Malen, who then put it to Moukoko, who also had to fight off that defender and somehow got around to cross it over to Adeyemi, which was, I feel bad for Adeyemi, because in the cup game too, he had the goal that wasn't that great of a goal. And then this one was very similar. And luckily Royce ran in there to tap it in. Because it might have been an own goal. I don't know if it was going to go in or not. I know they showed the replay like 10 times, but yeah, I kind of feel bad for him. But also, dude, just put it a little higher, put it to the left more. Yeah. Come on. But I'm
talk about positioning, because Marco Reus was also in a position to immediately follow it up. So I think overall the structure of that attack alone is just really great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the rest of the first half's pretty decent, my opinion. Obviously, some things we need to work on, but I thought, again, we looked a little bit more stable. I love the energy and the tenacity that we had. The pressing alone looked like it was like a team effort, which we talked about countless times last season. It just looked like more of an individual effort, and even at those instances, it looked just like half-assed. But people or the players are like buying into this philosophy from Terzic and actually wanting to go out and compete and going to go actually win and not just letting the game come to them, which it's a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, it was purposeful football for over 90 minutes, I would say. And that is, to me, the biggest change and maybe the biggest credit I have for Edin Terzic right now. Because, as you said, the cohesion was there, the will was there, and also the follow-through was there, which resulted in a lot of fouls by Leverkusen. Just think about Hinkepie. I think the Leverkusen fullback had 3 or 4 fouls at least that could have led to an injury. I mean, he did injure Adeyemi right away. Then he stepped on his other foot a couple of minutes later, and he also stepped on Royce's heel. And there were just so many moments where Leverkusen players were just that one little step too late, and because Dortmund are, a little bit quicker mentally and physically. And so, to me, if we compare Terzic's time to the last remnants of the Rose era, which maybe is not a fair comparison just yet because literally just one match day is played. But I think the energy was changed. The atmosphere in the stadium was electric. And as you said, the pressing looked coherent and Dortmund looked like they had a plan. Even if they had to take a lot of pressure from Leverkusen at times, it never really felt like they were going to break down any second.
Yeah, and again, going back to Schlotterbeck as well, I mean, I know he had 2 kind of relatively almost costly mistakes in this game, but I just had a lot of monstrous tackles. I loved how he was...
What do you mean 2?
What's that? The 2 mistakes?
What's the second one?
He had, of course, he gave the ball away, and then, oh my goodness, now I'm blanking.
I feel like there was a couple times, I don't know when they were specifically, but there was a couple of slide tackles.
What you're blanking on is the own goal he scored.
Yeah.
But I had it written down too, a little rant on Schlotterbeck, how everyone is in love with him, but, if he could also lose Dortmund the game. But I rewatched the game as well today, and what I saw for that own goal moment is that he actually jumped, to, I think Azmoun was it? I don't know if it was Azmoun, but whoever it was, might have been Schick, but to put the player offside. So he moved away from goal. He had the awareness to step, so his recovery was a little bit poorer. But I think he knew that he put this Leverkusen attacker, whoever it was, offside, and thus just tried to clear it wherever because he knew he just had to end the play, and that was it. So, you can say it was a mistake, but really, if you look at the situation, I would actually not count it because he was switched on and was in the 80th minute or so around that time. Had the awareness to put his opponent offside, and for that he actually deserves praise. Yeah. So he had one crucial mistake. Yeah. I would say that Dahoud then really helped with and led to another Dortmund chance in the counterattack, so to speak.
There were. Yeah, back to, on that, I remember seeing the replay of that too, where they show him jumping off, where he knows exactly what's going on. He's watching the ball, and you see him jump the dude's like a good 4 or 5 feet offside. So yeah, that was like genius by him, and to be fully switched on that late in the game. There were a couple times where I think he came in a little late on some tackles or missed some slide tackles, but I think he also made up for that in so many other ways too. There, I think early on in the game, maybe a couple missed tackles here and there. I was a little concerned, a little worried. I'm like, maybe he just...
he didn't look just as patient towards the end. He had a missed slide tackle kind of near the halfway line. But I love how he's always proactive with not only the offsides call, but just everything in general. He's very alert compared to... really, you could think of any center back of ours in the last few years. Hummels has his mental lapses. Zagadou definitely has his mental lapses. Akanji has his mental lapses. Can we
please talk about Mats Hummels when Patrick Schick had his first really big chance where he just shot it right at Kobel, where Mats Hummels spreads out his arms to signal that the play is over. And then in his back, Patrick Schick emerges and hits the ball straight at the keeper. I'm sorry, Mats, but that is pretty atrocious right there. That's not a good spatial awareness. Yeah. And where your opponent is, that's a little sad.
Yeah. All 3 of them in the last few years, and you can keep going down the line even, but Schlotterbeck just looks like one of those players who can stay just concentrated for those full 90 minutes and be alert, be aware, and be proactive and making sure, you can put out those kind of fires.
I think on that, the missed tackle at the halfway line that you're talking about too, he also made a real big effort to get back in the box, which is something I don't think we've necessarily seen from our center backs before.
And the second he recovers, he's also just firing up the crowd too and everything, which again, that keeps the energy up and that keeps everyone, just keeps out that tenacity going.
I remember multiple times seeing Zagadou get beat like at the 18 and just stopping. But like, so Schlotterbeck missing a tackle at that halfway line and still getting back into the 18 was like phenomenal to see. So
yeah, can we please talk about the bromance between Gregor Kobel and Nico Schlotterbeck? I think this needs to be addressed right here.
Yeah,
because it's obviously a budding friendship at the minimum, if not love story, because they are very similar when it comes to fist pumps. And when it don't get that in the wrong way. You were laughing, no. They like to pump each other up and hype each other up in a very special way. I think also very late in the game when Schlotterbeck had this one sliding tackle where he won a goal kick from it, and then he waited for the linesman, and then he fist pumped, and then the whole stadium got going off that. It's amazing, and obviously it's so much more than just the game if you have this interaction between him and the fans. And obviously Gregor Kobel very similar. When Dahoud had this monster tackle, you see him in the background, going nuts over it. So I think those two players are sort of I don't know, destined to share this sort of emotion.
And if I can add to that and make almost like a love triangle, I forgot until a few weeks ago that Sule and Kobel were at Hoffenheim years back. So I mean, again, those three really continue to build that partnership of at the back, and they just players like Schlotterbeck and Kobel and Jude, you can go down the line, they just ooze charisma, and like you were saying before, constantly just firing up the fans, and I mean that goes a long way. That keeps your team going for all 90 minutes instead of being gassed coming out of the second half, which happened a handful of times last year too. So
yeah, I think everyone should do themselves a favor, because I rewatched the game today and just skip to the 84th, 85th minute or so, and every Dortmund fan in that stadium is on their feet, and the atmosphere is just off the charts great. And it was a moment where Dortmund sort of switched to a back five and went into cruise control of the game, and it was not like they were trying to steamroll Leverkusen at that moment. But nevertheless, you could feel the appreciation the fans had for the effort that already unfolded for the previous 85 or so minutes. And I think this is the euphoria that I now have for the rest of the season, because you can just sense it. You can feel that pretty much every Dortmund fan is excited about what is to come, even though there are so many complications around.
Yeah, and I know, Stefan, you've experienced it before, but any listener who has heard about the atmosphere at Dortmund before but hasn't gone and experienced it for themselves, I mean, I had expectations building for over a decade, and when I finally got the chance to finally go to a game, I was honestly nervous. I was like, I mean, it's been building up in my head for over 10 years. Like, is it going to be able to meet those expectations? Is it going to be that fun? And it just shattered absolutely everything I could possibly think of. I was on cloud nine for the entire time. I went way before the game. I stayed for way after the game, and it felt like a 10-minute ordeal. It was just an unbelievable blast. So, like you said before, it's just an electric atmosphere, and that does so much for the team on the field.
Carver's trying to get his tickets covered.
I actually, you know what? I did get my tickets. Okay, I did get my tickets. Yeah, I lost the original raffle, and I was sitting there refreshing. I shit you not, for I don't know how many hours on end and days on end waiting for the Werder Bremen tickets to go on the resale, and they popped up, and I was just like spamming my credit card info, and I was like, I got 2 tickets. Anyway,
you were charged 500 times now. But
yeah. That being said, I need a lot of money from you both. So just touch on just a few things from the second half. Had a really good chance early on to go even further ahead. I don't know how Hazard doesn't put that away with the chance that Malen had across goal. Had a great job. I mean, he's known for his tenacity as well, getting the ball in the box. But it's a beautiful cross in right across goal, and I don't understand how that doesn't end up in the back of the net. It could be 2-0 up, and not going to be on cruise control going into that moment, but it definitely eases some nerves, because I know the pressure just slowly built for those 20-25 minutes of the second half for a while.
With this game, I think there were a lot of moments where I expected more and I wanted a lot more, and I get it's early, and I was just kind of thinking back to preseason and thinking, I don't know if we had necessarily the best preseason. I know losing to those was it Valencia?
Spanish teams.
2 Spanish teams. That's better than me getting the names wrong. Valencia and Villarreal. I'm probably wrong on that. And then because we lost to those 2 teams, and then the other teams we played were just like lower division. Do you think that was any hindrance to us overall? Because I just feel like it was a bit of a slow start. Like we had good moments, and I felt like the team was more stable in the back, especially like we weren't going to give anything up. But wanted to ask you guys specifically, like, did you guys have any concerns with that? Do you think we're going to get rolling later, like as we progress in this season, or was it just a slow start, or what are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, it is a slow start. I think it's going to be rocky and not that clear defined what Dortmund are doing on the field for a lot of games. I think all of August, probably September too. It's going to be pretty patchy. I don't expect them to play the most magnificent football that they are capable of anytime soon, to be honest. But it's okay, because if they play like they did against Leverkusen, then you see that the basics are there and that you have a foundation that you can build on. That is much more important than when you can dazzle one opponent, let's say 5-2, like Dortmund did against Frankfurt last season in the opener, but then you turn around and you look pretty abject because you do not defend the way you must, or other things like that. So I'm okay with that. That was sort of my expectation going into this anyway. I was not expecting Dortmund to win that game, if I'm entirely honest, because Leverkusen are just much further ahead in their development. They kept their team much more together than Dortmund, and they had much more of a flow in the preseason as well. Obviously, Leverkusen crashing out of the cup might have changed my approach somewhat, but nevertheless, I still thought that Leverkusen overall played a very good game, and you could almost make the case that they might have deserved a point out of this game, but then again, they're club backed by Bayer, the pharma company, so they do not even deserve to be in the league in the first place. So. But more importantly, what I appreciate about this game overarchingly, and I think Schlotterbeck said it too after the game, is that you do not have to have all this possession and control the opponent from start to finish, because I have it somewhere in the last game. Where was it? I think Dortmund had 64 possession in that 5-2 loss, and they had 45 this time around, I'm perfectly content with that.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. It's one of the few times in the last, what seems like calendar year or so, that we haven't dominated in possession. And going back into not having the most not promising, but convincing performance. First of all, it doesn't help that we have like a really tough schedule for the most part for the next 2 months. I mean, granted, we have Werder Bremen and Hertha. But after that, I mean, you're looking at Leipzig, then you have Schalke, then you have Köln, then you have Bayern, then you have Union Berlin. I mean, it's a lot of really solid competition coming up. And again, it's going to take time. It's going to take time for these players to gel. It's going to take time for for the team to continue to learn the philosophy, because it's, again, we recycle through how many countless coaches in the last few years. So, there's bits of the last few coaches in the squad still. So, working the errors out and just moving forward.
I mean, who knows how the situation is going to be with all the injuries that Dortmund might
that too,
pick up. See, this is obviously a massive problem that's not entirely ironed out as for now. Obviously, it would have been amazing if Özcan was around, because I think he would play a very prominent role, and obviously you want to see how Niklas Süle will fare. But again, this is match day 1, and I think we should just appreciate that Dortmund got 3 points off Bayer Leverkusen, who were, along with Leipzig, the hottest team of the Rückrunde, and also our direct opponent for the Champions League spots. So these 3 points are already massive for Dortmund. And whatever comes next obviously it matters, but to have this already in the books and have the start that Dortmund have, because also 180 minutes of football, 0 goals conceded. We can all sit here and discuss that Leverkusen could have scored 2 goals with Patrick Schick. Yeah, of course, but they didn't, and Dortmund have a good goalkeeper. So I'm just very happy because Dortmund did limit Leverkusen in this game to 8 shots and 3 on targets, which is half of the amount of shots that Leverkusen had in the 5-2 win or loss, however you want to see it. So I think obviously the result dictates the narrative here, but I think we can be very happy with how it all worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, to touch on the end too, we got the clean sheet too, which, a lot of fans were complaining that we didn't get barely any of those, not just last year, but in recent years in general. And having a keeper like Kobel, I mean, God, the saves he makes, he is an incredible talent too. And the same way also that Schlotterbeck is, oozes charisma and just gets all the fans behind him. Kobel's the exact same way, man. I mean, he is always just, veins popping out of his neck every save he makes and screaming at the fans. So love to see it too. Very vocal keeper. That can be a bit of a luxury. So
I called it during our preview. I said Kobel's not letting anything in.
That's what you did call the clean sheet last week. I forgot about that.
That's impressive because I'm pretty sure no one called a clean sheet, but there you are.
Well, after I said that, we did also talk about how I think step 1 is to not conceding the early goal, which is our style. So
yeah.
Yeah, usually Dortmund concede 10 seconds into the season or so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're already 42 minutes in. That's crazy. So previewing in for Freiburg.
Wait, what? I'm sorry. I don't care about your time constraints. We have to talk about all the other chances that Dortmund had.
Sure.
Because Marco Reus wasted one that.
Well, what else is new?
that we should discuss a little, but not really. But Bellingham also had a really good shot right after the Hoots monster tackle. When we talk about all the chances that Leverkusen supposedly had, we also need to talk about Marius Wolf, who really hit a thunderbolt.
Oh yeah, yep.
Right, that was pretty close. And Jude Bellingham had another 2 chances in the final 5 minutes. One where he was fouled at the edge of the box by Aranguiz, which wasn't for whatever reason called, where he got clipped. And then he had another deflected shot. And then obviously Marco Reus had a free kick in the end, which he obviously missed on purpose, because that means Radetzky will get suspended for 1 extra game. And you wanted to already move on to the Freiburg game, but I just saved you here because we need to talk about that red card. Jake, on a level of 1 to 10, how dumb was it what Radetzky did there? And
what are you going with?
And for context, he did not know the rule that he would be sent off for it.
Yeah, he was looking pretty confused whenever he did get sent off there, which was...
the Hamill. I'm sorry, I was completely lost. Yeah. Are you saying he missed it so that he missed it on purpose? To the free kick?
I think he tried to score, but I'm just trying to make him look better.
I don't get how you don't keep that down. I mean, that one, and also the chance that he had early on in the first half too. It's crazy that Royce is a player that can just score these phenomenal goals from insane angles and goals in general that are just so incredibly difficult, if not impossible to score. But then he just misses absolute sitters like the 2 that he had against Leverkusen. I mean, at the very least, at that free kick, surely if someone of that ability and a professional like Royce, who's been at this kind of level for how long now, he can't just put that on target. And I know it's easier said than done, but you could just put that on target because you have someone who's what? I imagine that player has never played goal before. If put the gloves on at the end of a training session for 5 minutes, and that instantly that's Leverkusen's nerves that are ramping through the roof, and that could just be an easy tap in, like we were saying earlier, of shots that lead to another shot.
Yeah, and in that situation, if that guy has played goal in training, which I doubt he has, you're not put in that kind of high pressure situation. So, yeah, I mean, Royce puts that on target. The commentators were saying it, everyone's saying it is like this is a goal because you just got to.
Who was that in goal? Was it Tapsoba? I forget.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But I was actively rooting against Royce because I know the rule that if you get sent off for taking away a clear and obvious goal scoring opportunity, and then the ensuing free kick or penalty will not result in a goal, then you will usually get another extra game of suspension. So it might now be 3 games instead of 2. So while it would have been nice for the Lulz, at the same time, damaging Leverkusen even further is what Dortmund need to do. So let's sabotage that.
I had no idea about that rule. The rule about the other extended suspension. That's crazy.
Well, you're a bunch of Radetzkis.
That's fair. That's what we're going to change the name of the show to.
Please don't.
Him grabbing the ball though outside of the box. I think that was just one of those scenarios where, like it, you almost revert to like, that's something you do as a kid. We're like, oh no, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm leaning over. I'm like, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you because I'm still in the line. You know what I mean? It's just like,
yeah, he was looking pretty confused walking off there.
I love that Edin Terzic was immediately in the face of the fourth official after it happened, that there, wasn't a little bit of finger pointing or something. No, he was right in his grill and was demanding the review, and it came promptly. So kudos.
It's pretty Klopp-esque in that sense of like the famous GIF of Klopp just like
it
getting
wasn't quite Napoli, but
yeah.
Yeah.
And then also just that wolf shot was crazy too. I didn't even know he had something like that in his arsenal. I mean, he's had some decent goals here and there, but I had nothing of that venom. And I know it wasn't on target, but it wasn't too far off either. That would have been one of the goals of the season on match day 1.
Yeah, we probably need to quickly just mention that when Terzic switched to that back 5 with Wolf as a left wing back, I think it was. And then you had Jan in the back 3 that threw Leverkusen off to the extent that in the final 10 minutes or whatever after that last offside goal that they scored, they had nothing. They had nothing left. They looked pretty tired as it was, but they had so many attackers out there and they could not get anything going. So another credit to Terzic and the coaching, because I thought that tactical move late in the game actually really helped Dortmund, close it out, even though they did not add a second goal where, there were a couple of counter-attacking moments where they probably should have capitalized a little bit more, but still, more importantly is that you keep Leverkusen far away from your goal. And as a final thought, that made me also very happy.
Yeah, I feel like that's something we didn't see last season. That's something at least Carver and I talked about a lot, is us being confused on what the tactics are, and it looks like we're just going out there with no tactics at all, and maybe the injuries played into it because you just got to deal with what you got.
At least in defense. I mean, we had like some ideas here and there going forward, but when it came to, towards the end of the game, really grinding down or holding down and trying to grind out a result, it just looked pretty much non-existent.
And to see, like, I think in-game shifting in tactics too. It seemed like we saw formations move around, but it didn't seem necessarily like that. Like that was the plan going into it. That wasn't like, oh, this isn't working, so let's change this. Let's move this around.
And it was like last year too, a lot of useless subs. 88th, 89th minute, just things were just like, we're bringing in a center back whenever we need however many goals. Interesting.
I just love how we distractors crawl out of our holes after literally one game. It's not at all premature to say all these things.
Yeah. We're winning the league.
Delete that out.
Yeah.
Although I think I said that in the summer. I don't know. Well, okay, I will, on a realistic note, as far as me being me a little down on this game, and probably other people watching this game be like, oh, maybe it wasn't as much as what I hoped for. Like maybe we wanted to bang in a few more goals, and maybe people might not think we created as many chances as we should have had. I'm glad you mentioned that, like it's going to take time to work into it. But I think coming off this summer where we saw so many changes, we saw so many signings, that we were just on such this high. It's like, all right, we're humbled a little bit, but we still got a good result. But we do need to be realistic. Like with a ton of new people coming in, and Terzic taking over, like that's a lot of change, and it is going to take some. Like not everything's going to click immediately in one preseason. Like it's going to take time. So thank you for mentioning that. But
also, there's an emphasis shift, on being more defensively resolute. So I think the balance is just a little bit different. So I don't expect Dortmund to be as dominant on the ball, because as I said at the outset, Dortmund's football is a little bit more purposeful. So there will be also more direct, hence a drop of possession also. So maybe if you are looking for the optical dominance that Dortmund so often have, I think it's going to be a little bit less of that, and games will feel, because of that, way more intense, because the Leverkusen game at points, also because of the many fouls, did not have the best flow, did not have the best rhythm. So there are many reasons why you would think that maybe Dortmund did not have the best performance. And also all the chances that I just counted, I feel like minus the Hazard chance, which was, should have been a slam dunk really, they all felt a little bit like half chances or whatnot, but nevertheless, they still did exist, and Dortmund did still create a lot of chances. I feel like also in the final 10 minutes, when they had counter-attacking opportunities that did not go as smoothly as it could. That's just because it's the start of the season, and these games, unless you Bayern Munich, are always a bit sketchy.
And if there's one thing that I think we are seeing a really good foundation for that we will continue to see moving forward is the mentality. I mean, how many years now or have we been saying that this team has been lacking like an identity and a mentality? And I think this is the squad that, not just Kale, but in the last year or so, our sporting directors have brought in the players with that right mentality that not only want to be here and build things here, but want to hold other people accountable around them. Schlotterbeck has mentioned in interviews before that he holds people around him accountable, and he certainly holds himself accountable for his performances. So I think the mentality is definitely there in that sense.
Yeah, but now we obviously have to wait and see how this translates from a super vibrant Westfalenstadion to the away ground, like, for example, the Freiburg Stadium. I've forgotten what it's called. Something Europa Arena, whatever the hell.
Europa Park Stadion, yeah.
Okay, there you go.
How are you feeling about that game? Because I was mentioning in our summer preview that I think Freiburg had some pretty good business this year. I mean, I think they had like pretty much just as many signings as we had, not near to the quality, but I mean, didn't spend that much money. A lot of free transfers. Gregorischt. Also, he got 1 goal and 1 assist in his debut last week.
Dortmund killer.
Yeah.
Michael Gregoritsch. Yeah, he just Freiburg obviously took down Augsburg for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 of their new signings scored, if I have it right. I think obviously actually 3 of the new signings scored because Rizzo Dorn is also new. So Matthias Ginter scored and Michael Gregoritsch.
Did Ginter score? I didn't see that. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
he had a nice volley. So I think I'm not entirely sure. I only watched highlights if it were 3 or 4 set-piece goals, but pretty much all of that came from a set-piece or sort of the ensuing phase of a set-piece, I think.
Uh-oh, don't say that. We're pretty piss poor at
the keyword for the Freiburg game is set-pieces and how Dortmund will defend against the team that is the best set-piece scoring team in the Bundesliga and have continued right where they left off.
Yeah, and I noticed at just on small few occasions against Leverkusen, we are a little slow to react in organizing ourselves for defending set pieces. So I hope we can kind of clean up that act in the sense against a team like Freiburg, who are dangerous on those set pieces as well. I mean, Ginter's someone who can be definitely dangerous in the air. So, I wonder how if we're going to be able to come out on top of this one away. We got beat pretty bad last time too, or away Freiburg last year. So, does anybody have any score predictions or predictions that they're going to see on the field?
I think it might be a 1-1 game, to be honest, because I think it's going to be super tight and super close. Because Freiburg already look very organized. They have their shit together, really, under Streich. And I hate to say this, but Christian Streich, after being shellacked by Dortmund pretty much all the time, he has sort of now figured it out.
Yeah.
He has realized that he needs to drop possession levels to, I don't know, the 40 percentile or so, and just sit back and wait for the counter-attacking opportunities that will inevitably come. And then, of course, you have to... win corner kicks and free kicks, especially, Vincenzo Grifo is always a threat. He already scored an absolute peach of a free kick against Augsburg. So I really hope that the law of averages just dictate that he's not going to score against Dortmund then. But I'm always terrified about Freiburg because they have done so much good business. And, Rizzo Dorn from Bielefeld is an awesome playmaker. Matthias Ginter is a very experienced player, and he fits right into their system. And they just know how to prevent high quality shots, how to shut down chances. So I really do hope that Adeyemi will become fit miraculously, which I'm not entirely sure he will, because Dortmund will need his pace to beat Freiburg's defenders.
I was just thinking that exact same thing too. I wonder if Adeyemi and Sule are going to be back, because Sule had the classic.
Sule is not going to be back.
Oh, perfect. Because I know he had like the classic, 2 weeks or whatever, quote unquote. And
no, he said, I think he was interviewed while he was in the stands at the recent game, and he said that he's aiming for the Bremen game.
Okay. Hey.
Watch the BVB update.
Come on.
Yeah, I imagine it's obviously going to be a very close game as well. I can imagine a tie coming out of this. Lots of goals, maybe. Jake?
I don't want to predict a nothing but a win. So I'm just gonna go. I'll
He's
say
the optimist.
We grind out a 1-0 win. You can't get past Como.
You're gonna do another clean sheet?
He's not. Cole's not letting anything in. Let's say it again.
I'm going to 2-2. Stefan?
Yeah, I mean, if I really have to give a prediction, I'm going to say 2-1 to Dortmund.
Okay, cool.
Because I also feel like, as fairy tales go, there must be a Modeste late header that just kills Mark Flecken somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's sort of what I'm hoping for. Obviously, hoping for to like 5-0 win where Dortmund just cruise from the first minute, but that's not realistic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm quite terrified because they have a really good base or foundation. I mean, just if you look at the midfield of Eggestein and Höfler, very strong. Philipp Lienhardt is also a really capable center back next to Matthias Ginter, and Sildia and Christian Günther, their fullbacks, are two-way players, as they say in the NBA, that they can attack and defend. So overall, we are looking at a very balanced Freiburg team that have very few weaknesses. Overall, they might not have the highest individual quality, but they have a coach who knows how to put it all together. So this is obviously one of the toughest games of the season. Freiburg away always is. So if Dortmund can even get a point out of there, honestly, I think if you're realistic, this is already a good result for Dortmund. Obviously, if that would be the case, there would already chaos and panic in German media about the title race and blah, blah, blah. But, Dortmund are still a work in progress.
Yeah, well said. Well said, Jake. Any final thoughts on Freiburg?
Well, I was going to ask if Adeyemi is out, you think Hazard just comes into that spot since we saw him sub in?
Yeah. I would say so.
And then, do you know, is Özcan ready? Is he ready to go? Because I was just on Dortmund's FOT mob, and he didn't show up as an injured player.
Unlikely. Yeah, also Gio Reyna was in the
bench,
They put him as like... bench. They made him the highlight player on the graphic when he was starting on the bench, which, I mean, I was hyped about it, but then I was like, oh, no, he's not starting.
Yeah.
Oh, on him, though, I was going to ask, too, do you think where he's, like, there's a chance he'll play out wide on as one of the wings, or I've seen just so much about him being the backup to Marco Reus now, so where do you think see him playing?
He will also play out wide on the wings. He's such a versatile player. Mm-hmm. He will pretty much cover any position in Dortmund's attack, plus the number 8. This season, I'm pretty convinced of it, but first he needs to restore to full fitness, which is still a bit of a process. So I'm wondering if he's already far enough for him to actually also make the trip to Freiburg, because it's one thing to be included in the matchday squad where you can pretty much put any player on the bench. But the good news is that Dortmund will have Jamie Bino Gittens back.
Yeah,
and I think he is a difference maker. We saw it against Hertha in that last game of last season, that he basically, when he came on at halftime, turned it around pretty much by himself. And that's already positive. On Özcan, it's difficult because, as Kiel said, he had a very patchy preseason. He missed the entire training camp in Switzerland. And so I'm not really holding my breath. He did the warm-up today and then proceeded to train individually. So since it's Tuesday and the game is on Friday, I would probably say he is not going to feature. And if he is, it's probably just like a 5-10 minute cameo just to get a feel for things. But it's difficult. And when it comes to Adeyemi, Kiel was a little bit more hopeful, where he said, obviously it's no structural damage and he can maybe pick up training again tomorrow or Thursday. And since he is, fit enough, if he is pain-free on Thursday, then I'm pretty sure he will be playing on Friday.
I hope Hazard can come and prove a lot of fans, including me, wrong, because he had some moments here and there, and I'm not even talking about the miss he had, but just the way he attacks at times is just kind of just getting the ball, putting his head down, and like running straight at a defender, not having any ideas. Is just, I don't really understand how we're going to be able to, I guess, be at the level that we want to be at with a man like him in attack if he's not going to improve. But like you said, Stefan, we don't really have many other options here at the moment, at least that can start and play for a whole 90 minutes.
He did surprise me. Hazard, when he came on, Hazard looked a lot better than what I was expecting.
Yeah. I thought he had some good recoveries and things. I mean, he tracked back well at times, but Before we go, do you have time for just a few Twitter questions?
Yeah. However long you want.
Awesome.
Just filter out all the silly questions and I'm good.
Yeah, no, we weren't going to do, because we had a lot on our Twitter. Thank you for everyone who was participating in that. But first one from Varley Ray Jepson, hilarious
on the
name.
screen. I'm like, keep double taking. I'm like, what is happening?
They ask, what does the third captaincy to Bellingham mean? Should we be emotionally preparing to lose him, or perhaps he might stay longer?
I'm prepared.
I'm prepared to emotionally to lose Bellingham, but I don't care how much emotional preparation there is. I'm not going to be a happy camper on that day because it is painfully obvious to everyone, including the questionnaire,
Yeah.
that obviously Bellingham is the absolute pivot in our system and maybe even becoming the heart and soul of Borussia Dortmund. And the fact that he's already ranking third in the captaincy means a lot. And I think he is becoming even better this season. But at the same time, I've watched so many Dortmund talents over the last decade, including Jadon Sancho, by the way, who is struggling at Manchester United. And in that vein, I would say it makes more sense for Bellingham, if we're really honest, to extend his contract and play at least one more season after this, for him to really mature into the player that he needs to be when he makes a big money move to the Premier League or wherever, because then the expectation is just going to be different. But I really hate talking about Bellingham in that context, because he's bringing so much positivity and so much reliability that I do not want to think about the time when he's no longer at Dortmund, because this is going to be a bitch to replace him.
Yeah. And also, the captaincy means a lot to him as well. He says in I don't know how many interviews now that he's like, I'm just focused on being a leader here. I want to, even though other people were asking him, he's wanting to lead these new young players that are coming in, especially players like Jamie Bino-Gittens, and just build a foundation here. And he's only been here a few years, but everyone, just like you were saying, thinks of him as becoming the heart and soul of the team. So I'm gonna hop with you guys and say, yeah, I'm emotionally preparing as well, but fingers crossed, I guess. Second one here is from Zaheen, our good friend on Twitter. He's saying, "Are we putting too high?" Yep. Are we putting too high expectations for Terzic with all these new signings? And
I don't know what his expectations are, so we can't answer that.
Yeah, well, I think we kind of answered it earlier as far as.
Well, yeah, I was thinking. I think the expectations, from what I'm thinking, are it's not really solely just like on how or where we place in the table or anything like that, but just as much as the board was trusting Terzic to build a foundation of letting the players gel together, bring some togetherness, some team spirit, and build some real chemistry within the team. So it's not just a squad of individuals, but an actual team. And I think that's the expectation, rather than is he the manager that's going to bring us all this glory, Well,
if you approach it that way, then I would say actually then it's justified.
Yeah.
Because this is what Borussia Dortmund actually should expect. This is what they should expect to build. Even if they do not win the championship, because there are obviously other clubs that are doing a much better job with much more resources. That being said, I still think having a cohesive unit on the field and players that just give their all to defend their own goal and to attack whenever they get the chance should be the status quo for Dortmund, and everything else in my book is underperformance. And I think honestly Edin Terzic is probably the best shot at this, together with Kehl. I'm personally also very I would say positive on where this is all going right now. Obviously, you never know how I will talk about it in September. But for now, I think it is justified to have these expectations, because quite frankly, this is what Borussia Dortmund are expecting of themselves.
Yep, well said. And then last one here, I just kind of blended a few different questions together because they kind of sounded like the same thing, and we touched on it already. But what does a successful development path for Moukoko look like? Will Modeste be the main man for us, causing Moukoko to take another back seat? Or has he convinced us fans so far that he can maybe be the man for the job here going forward?
Man, I really would love to revisit that sort of question in a month because we had so little to see with Moukoko. But I think, honestly, he is already improved to whatever he was last season. You know, we've talked about him, how he held off the defender. Obviously, you know, he looks very desperate to score right now. And there is still a lot to learn for him, but especially his off-the-ball movement and the way he presses opponents and the way he's hunting opponents right now, which he did against Leverkusen, because we did talk about a cohesive pressive, and Moukoko at 17 years old was part of that system, and it did work out and it looked good. So that being said, I think that is the reason why I think he will play a lot and feature a lot, because I don't think that Modeste can replicate the same amount of pressing. But the other argument in my head is that Edin Terzic also really wanted the high profile, or not high profile, but the number 9 that is tall and up front, and you can operate with half-field crosses and have the anchor and whatnot. So there's a good chance that maybe they play off each other. But you know, the short answer is I don't know for sure.
That's what I was going to touch on kind of at the end, is I feel like Terzic might experiment, at times of having them play off each other, because Moukoko can learn a lot from a Bundesliga veteran like Modeste, and just improve on different aspects of his game that aren't his strengths at the moment, which some you've already mentioned. And I think he's going to be, in a way, a pretty solid role model for someone like Moukoko for this next year. And then hopefully if Haller comes back healthy, he can be another role model for Moukoko and help him bring him into that, the development path that we want him to be on and extend, and then, hopefully be the striker that can be a Borussen for years to come.
Well, one big question about Moukoko really is he going to extend? And I think he's advised by his own father, and they are asking also for a lot of money. So this might not happen. There's a good chance that it doesn't happen. And what the off the field, shenanigans then will be, I do not know. So there is obviously a very good chance that he just loses his head a little bit this season. So it's a really tricky situation because there are so many variables. So I personally can't really answer that question. And of course, no one really knows what his ceiling is. Also, he could step into another gear very easily, but he could also stagnate.
Yeah, I wonder how he's going to mature mentally, because he looks like on the field and physically he's been learning a lot about his game, but at times he's still very much looking like a teenager.
Yeah. I think
he is.
Well, yeah, but compared to someone like Jude, I was saying.
I mean, I'd said it before, and I think I got some backlash for it, but he just needs to go out on loan, I think.
Yeah.
Put him on loan somewhere, like a team that will 100% use him and let him be that guy, because it seems like we don't necessarily want to give him that chance yet.
I would put him. I would loan him out to Gladbach. That would, I think, be a good fit.
Yeah, definitely a team that can still compete at a pretty competitive level. Absolutely.
Yeah, not only that, but Gladbach also could use a player like him, because they're also a very dominant team, at least in theory. That's what they want to play. So I think Gladbach's playing style, because it doesn't often hinge on the hold-up player up front, because they also do like players like Lars Stindl or whatnot. To me, that would theoretically make sense. But again, if you want to loan him out, he needs to want to be loaned out, and for that, he also needs to extend his contract.
Yeah. And Farka is pretty good at he's produced a lot of young talent at Norwich too. So I feel like he'd be someone that would be happy to play Moukoko in his system.
I'm not entirely sure if Farka and Moukoko have crossed paths at Dortmund at some point or not. I can't tell you that, but question. There might be a chance.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, so Dortmund at Freiburg this Friday. We got some Friday night football, Friday afternoon football. I'm going to have to put a pause on work so I can watch the game. And then, so kickoff 2:30 Eastern time. And it's going to be on ESPN Plus. We had the benefit of, it was on ESPN
ABC.
Plus and Big ABC the last game, which was cool because there was actually like a halftime show that I didn't really care for that much, but I was like, hey, that's cool that we get some.
Yeah, I walked the dog during halftime.
At first I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, are they doing this for all the Bundesliga games? Then I remembered it was on ABC and I was like, probably
Yeah, probably not.
But yeah, so Dortmund this Friday. Stefan, thank you so much for joining us again.
Yes, thank you. Big fan. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, I really hope I didn't draw it out too long by talking about the BVB update for 1.5 hours.
When again is you're going to have a BVB an update today? Every episode, every day?
Day's already out. Tomorrow probably not, because I'm starting to go on vacation now. So my wife and I are going to drive up to Cape Cod.
Oh,
but
nice.
yeah, lastly, I just want to say you guys are doing a really fantastic job, and I enjoy listening to it. It's such a beauty to not have to listen to Grumpy Lars and myself all the time. And so I'm really glad you guys have started this. It's also nice to have other BVB podcasts like Believe in BVB, I think it's called, from Tilo or Tino. Either way, he's doing also a very cool job. So this is good. It's nice to see a growing community of I don't know what to call it, content creators, but practically that is what we are.
Yeah.
So I enjoy it. So this is already a bummer for me that I will not be able to listen to the BVB pod now and not be on it.
We'll link all of your stuff, the Yellow Wall and the update for everyone to check out, and your website, which I got to plug our website. Very subtle launch that we launched a website last week. It was very subtle because we weren't sure if it was going to be ready. And then it was by the time we put out the episode. So typically I would give out all our links to everything. But if you want to find us anywhere, just go to thebvbpodcast.com. You can find out where to listen to us. You can follow us on socials and leave us a review if you want to, because that'd be great too. And go watch everything for Stefan so that he can have money and take more vacations.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me. And as always, thank you everyone out there for listening.
Awesome. Well, we'll be back next week. Thanks for hanging out, guys.